And there you have it. The Browns are accepting their fate. They are looking for the future, and Amari Cooper is a Buffalo Bill. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here live on the channel, breaking down and reacting to this trade. Cooper for essentially a third-round draft pick. There's a late day 3 pick swap, but we are more or less just robbing Peter to pay Paul there. So I look at it in a shortened version of Cooper for a third, which if you look at it over the entire period of Cooper's history with the Browns, he was acquired for a 5th-round draft pick. He played 2 incredible seasons, and the Browns then turned him into a 3rd-round pick. So probably the best single move Andrew Berry has made as the Browns GM. But I know that everyone is not on board with this trade. It's a tough pill to swallow, knowing that your season is done if you are trading your number 1 wide receiver. But for a 3rd-round draft pick, I can't blame the Browns for saying no to this deal. It's a good trade for both sides. I want to know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Grade the trade. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm not going to give it an A, not because the trade's bad or anything, but it's just because it represents 2024 being a lost season. That's a sad thing, and I don't want to get to that place, but we have to get to that place because that is where the Browns are at 1-5. I'll give it a B+. I think it's a great deal for the Bills. They get a true number 1 wide receiver as they look to be, once again, perennial AFC playoff opponents for other or playoff teams, whatever. And Cooper's going to go from being disgruntled, unhappy, and unproductive to probably putting up 800 yards and 7 touchdowns with the Bills for the next 10, 11 games, however many left in the season. So give me your grade down below in the comment section. I'm going to get some shout-outs here. We have 280 people watching with us already, 28 likes, so make sure to hit that thumbs-up button if you are just filing in. Let's see, I've got Tay giving it a D, Broccoli giving it an F, Justin Trimble gives it a C. Scott gives it a C. I think getting a 3rd-round draft pick for a team that's going nowhere, for a player that wasn't even producing much for you, is honestly as good as it gets. I understand that it's just a bummer to realize, yep, the Browns are officially toast this year. We knew that. It was just a question about whether or not the front office and the coaching staff would realize that. And this right here reflects that. So a little bit earlier than I anticipated, honestly. I thought we'd see Amari Cooper get traded. I just thought the Browns would maybe wait a little bit longer and see if they can string together some home wins here. But they may look at it as, hey, even if we don't believe our season is done, we don't think Amari Cooper is going to be a vital part for turning it around because he has been awful. The drops have been horrendous. He leads the NFL in drops. I mean, he was never a player that had issues with drops up until this season, and he has completely fallen off the side of the world, and I never saw this coming. So we're going to get more into this. I'm going to give you more of my reaction and analysis when we get into a full breakdown of the trade. We're going to let the audience build up for a moment here. We have 366 people watching right now. Appreciate everyone for tuning in to a live Browns report. But before we get any further, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor today, Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today to check out their Game Time picks, which filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. Create an account after you download the app and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. We also have a brand new sponsor that I'm going to just share a little shortened version of it with you guys here, and that is Leaf Filter. We know Browns fans are built different, and so are their fans. And so for those fans, there's only one way to protect their gutters. That is Leaf Filter. Schedule your free inspection now for a limited time. Get up to 32% off your entire qualified purchase and 2 free Browns jerseys at leaffilter.com/report. That's a free inspection up to 32% off and 2 free Browns jerseys with qualified purchase at leaffilter.com/report. Offer valid on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. Full terms and conditions can be found at leaffilter.com/report. See representatives for warranty details. It's a great new sponsor of ours, so go check them out if you are looking to improve your home. All that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Let's get back to the Amari Cooper trade going down here. So, like I said, we'll get into more details of it, but Cooper basically for a third-round draft pick. The next thing that we need to think about here is Cooper's traded. What's next? More trades. If the Browns are going to trade away their number one wide receiver 2.5 weeks before the November 5th NFL trade deadline, no, 3 weeks from today, 3 weeks away, there are probably going to be more trades. So, who do you think gets traded next? You can't say Deshaun Watson. No one's trading for Deshaun Watson. My immediate reaction is Zadarius Smith, you are a lion. After losing Aiden Hutchinson, it makes way too much sense. He is 32 years old. He is not going to be here when the Browns hoist the Lombardi Trophy, unfortunately, because that ain't happening this year. Probably not happening next year, and that's when his contract is up. It makes so much sense for the Lions. It's not going to cost them multiple first-rounders like a Max Crosby could potentially with the Raiders. Zadarius Smith, you're going to Detroit. The Browns made a deal with the Lions last year. Donovan Peoples-Jones. John Dorsey is there, so there's some level of familiarity going on. I think Smith is a Lion. My only reasonable doubt for a trade is Joel Bitonio. I could see the Browns turning down an offer if they don't think it's good enough, simply because Bitonio has been that consistent for the Browns. He's the longest tenured Brown. I think he's got a shot at going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He has been that consistent, that good as a guard in the NFL. Everyone else over the age of 30 is up for grabs. I'll tell you who I'm not trading. I'm not trading Myles Garrett, and I'm not even going to have to explain why. I'm not trading Denzel Ward. And I'm not trading Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is just too important to the fabric of this franchise and this fan base. Myles Garrett is irreplaceable. He is the best player in franchise history. You just simply cannot trade the best player in your franchise's history in the prime of their career. And Denzel Ward is playing some of the best football in the prime of his career and is under the age of 30. Those three guys are off the table. I kind of want to put Njoku in that group right there, but I don't think it's fair to say David Njoku's at the same level of Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward amongst their positional peers. And then Nick Chubb, you're not going to get a great offer from anyway. Who's going to be giving you a boatload of picks for a 30-year-old running back who's coming off a major knee injury? So, Zadarius Smith, maybe Joel Bitonio, Jack Conklin definitely. I don't think anyone's going to be calling for Elijah Moore.
You're saying Greg Newsome?
Greg Newsome is an option for sure.
A lot of Greg Newsomes in the chat.
Greg Newsome could definitely get moved. He just hasn't been I don't think he's not bad. He's not benchable. You know what I mean? We have seen corners that need to get benched. Newsome just hasn't lived up to first-round draft expectations. If Greg Newsome was a third-round draft pick, I think the perception of Newsome would be very, very different. I think we all agree that he's a starting corner in the NFL. He's probably never going to be a Pro Bowl corner. But if you get 8-9 starting seasons out of him across 2 to 3 teams, he's going to have a pretty solid career. I'm going to say it's Zadarius Smith, though. Njoku trade, maybe. I don't think it's a 0% chance.
Yeah, if we think about the tight ends around the league right now, it's pretty strong. But what teams don't have a good tight end right now?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one. If a team's going to trade for Njoku, the Browns are going to want a decent haul in return. So a team making that trade must be a legit contender. So just think about the contenders. The Chiefs aren't going to do that. The Bills aren't going to do that. The Texans aren't going to do that. In the AFC East, Bills, no. Like I said, Dolphins, no. No one in the AFC North. No one else in the A. What about the Colts? If they really feel like they can do something this year, they don't have a tight end for now or for the future. You say the Dolphins? They don't have a tight end, but I don't think they're going to be willing.
They also don't have a quarterback right now.
Yeah. I think Njoku's going to cost you a third-round pick like Amari Cooper. So a team trading for him has to be at the level of the Bills. In the NFC North, Packers have like a tight end by committee approach. Vikings are going to get TJ Hawkinson back soon. Sam Laporta, Cole Kmet, they're all done. NFC South, you have Kyle Pitts. Saints aren't going to be buyers. Maybe the Buccaneers. I could see the Bucks getting Baker with Njoku back. Although the two never really played nicely together when they were in Cleveland. So, no,
But
maybe
I
not.
think when you talk about contenders, though, the Bucks are contenders.
I agree. Yes, the Bucks could be buyers.
If they're looking for a tight end, they would look at Njoku.
49ers, no. Seahawks, no. Cardinals, no. Rams, no. NFC East.
See, the only thing is, who would we get from the Bucks if we were?
It'll be draft picks. Yeah.
You think?
Only draft picks. I'm only interested in draft picks. And Eagles, no. Cowboys, no. Commanders, maybe. I could see the Commanders. Get Jaden Daniels another target to throw to. So someone tossed out Martin Emerson. I don't think they're going to give up on Martin Emerson. I think they view him as a long-term starting outside corner in the NFL. So I think Emerson's probably going to be off limits, but Greg Newsome is going to be somewhat of an enticing trade for the Browns because he's got that fifth-year option. So that would somewhat alleviate some cap constraints for this year, kind of get some money off of their books and whatnot. So keep an eye, next year, I'm sorry. I'm getting whatever year it is. That could, get some money off of their hands, kind of like when the Broncos traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns. So we have nearly 500 people tuned in right now. We have I wouldn't say fun show planned out. We have a show planned out. It involves breaking down the Amari Cooper trade. And then I thought you guys might enjoy an NFL mock draft. If you're going to trade Cooper, you are accepting your fate of this season being done, which means we should already start looking ahead to the future. So we're going to look at the Browns' first 2 draft picks next year, see who I think they might end up selecting, and then a mailbag. So get your questions in right now, #Browns or Super Chat. If you Super Chat, you skip the line. We guarantee it gets on screen. I should have mentioned, by the way, this is probably the last time you'll ever see me in my Amari Cooper jersey. It's a bummer, but this is unfortunately, man, no owner would ever do this, but there needs to be some buyback from teams for players. They just charge so much for jerseys. It's BS when they trade the guy 2.5 years later. It's like, well, here's $150 or so. Guess down the drain. By the way, off the wall question: Amari Cooper, best wide receiver in Cleveland Browns history? The longevity aspect of it really limits him. But 2 years of greatness. I would take 2 years of Amari Cooper over 1 year of Josh Gordon. Now, you have 4 years of slightly below Amari Cooper level with Jarvis Landry. OBJ now. And then you can go back pre-99, and that's just kind of a different era of football because they didn't nearly pass the ball as much as they do today. But you can kind of say if Amari Cooper was playing well to open up this year, I think he'd be a no-doubter best wide receiver in Browns history. But people are going to kind of remember it as the guy who had all the drops at the end, not the guy who set franchise records of back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, single-game record against the Houston Texans on Christmas Eve. That's the Amari Cooper, we're acting like he's dead, or I am, that I'm going to remember more of a Brown than the one who unfortunately just completely bottomed out this season. All right, 455. Yeah, Paul Warfield. Again, that's kind of, I would say, a different era of Browns, but just different era of football where the wide receiver was not nearly as valuable as they are today. So we are going to jump into our breakdown of the Amari Cooper trade. We have 447 people tuned in, just 83 likes. When we get to 100 likes, we will get into the nuts and bolts of this Amari Cooper trade. So 17 to go. Hit that thumbs up button if you have not already. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. And again, if you want to guarantee your spot in the mailbag or just on screen, Super Chat, and we'll throw it on for everyone watching to see. So if you have a question or a take you want everyone to see, Super Chat, and it'll get on. All right, we are 5 likes away from 100. Yep, put that in production. AG Productions appreciates you getting a question in. We'll get that on screen for you when we get to our mailbag. You can't trade for Malik Neighbors because the Giants would never do that. Why is it that the Browns are, I wouldn't say, I guess, cursed? Like, they get Odell Beckham Jr., he sucks at the Browns. They get Deshaun Watson, he sucks at the Browns. Why do I feel like if that happened to any other team, that would not have been the case? The scary answer to that is it's because it all starts at the top. And those are things that, as a fan, are just hard to see because it's not really reflected on the field. But it's just a trickle-down effect of poop and pee going all the way down from top to bottom. Nancy Reagan would be just rolling over. I think she's dead. Rolling over in her grave about this horrible trickle-down effect. I sure hope I didn't call Nancy Reagan dead if she's alive. She's got to be, I think. I think she... Okay, well, whatever. All right. We have 125 likes. Let's go. Let's jump into a full breakdown of this Browns Amari Cooper trade with the Buffalo Bills. Here we go. The Cleveland Browns are punting on this year. They have traded Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. My instant reaction to this is, and my face may not reflect it, but when I'm feeling inside, good. Good. Good for the Browns, good for the Bills, good for Amari Cooper. This is the Michael Scott win-win-win, right? The Browns get a valuable draft pick for Amari Cooper. The Bills get a number one wide receiver for Josh Allen. And I have no doubt that Amari Cooper is going to put up 900 yards and 6 touchdowns in Josh Allen's offense and completely turn his season around after a horrendous start. But this is overall, I think, a good deal for the Browns. They get a third-round draft pick, essentially, with some day 3 pick swaps going on as well, for a player who was not providing for them, not productive at all, leads the NFL in drops. And for a team that is 1-5, they are accepting that they are not going to make the playoffs in 2024. So do what you can to set yourself up for success in 2025. And you are better off with a third-round draft pick long-term than having no third-round draft pick from the Bills and Amari Cooper just wasting the final year of his contract away in Cleveland. So, like I said, initial reaction to this trade, good for the Browns. I'm happy that they have come to their senses, and I didn't think it would happen this quickly. I thought Amari Cooper would get traded, but not 3 weeks before the NFL trade deadline. But good for the Browns for realizing, we can kind of pack it up on this year, and if we do turn it around, it's not going to be because of Amari Cooper. He has unfortunately had one good game with the Giants, and outside of that, you could somewhat say he cost them a win or two. Like the Raiders, you can definitely point to. But Cooper this year has been extremely underwhelming, disappointing, and I did not see it coming, and I still don't understand how it happened. The guy simply fell off a cliff, and I know that he says it had nothing to do with the trade rumors with Brandon Ayuk, but if all of a sudden he becomes the Amari Cooper we've seen over the last 2 years in Buffalo, I'm going to have a tough time not believing that. So, Cooper, I do appreciate your service in Cleveland because it was probably the best wide receiver play we've ever seen from a Browns receiver. I know there was the 2013 Josh Gordon year, but man, Cooper, the only player in Browns history to put up back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he didn't just barely get it, like 1,160 yards, 1,250 yards. And he did it, by the way, with how many different starting quarterbacks? 6 starting different quarterbacks in that time frame right there, something like that. So, Cooper, there's no bitterness or no ill will for me. I'm going to miss wearing your jersey, though. That's for sure. Best of luck in Buffalo, but I think this is a good move for all parties here. I've got more to share on this trade, by the way, more reaction to get to, but I also think this is a precursor for what is to come, and that is more trades. Any Browns player over the age of 30 should have a bag packed because the Browns are in sell mode. If they're doing it 3 weeks before the deadline, other teams are going to start calling Berea and see what they can get. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way, as more news and trades come in, you are one of the first to know because we were the first to get live here and react to this trade. Now, with this trade, the Browns have added a third-round draft pick from the Buffalo Bills. They have a first, a second, and so on and so forth. So, handful of draft picks coming over from one draft pick coming over from Buffalo this year, but overall, a good stockpile of picks for 2025, which is very much needed for the Browns because they are going to be needing to turn it around quickly if Andrew Berry wants any chance of saving his job. Either you can expect a full fire sale. Now, there are a couple of guys that I'm going to say right now are off limits. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and Nick Chubb. I know everyone wants to trade Deshaun Watson. That's obviously not going to happen. No team, not even the CFL would call. I don't think the CFL would call. So, those three guys are off limits, and I don't think I need to explain why. But Garrett, he is in the prime of his career. He is the best player in franchise history. You don't trade that away. It is just a move you cannot make as a GM. Denzel Ward in a similar spot where he is in the prime of his career, playing some of the best football of his career. I don't think you want to trade away a guy at a very valuable position playing some of the best football of his career, like I said. And then Nick Chubb is just too important to the fabric of this franchise. So, who could be moved? Zadarius Smith, you are a Lion. Shelby Harris, I think you might be a Bear. Maurice Hurst, I think you're going to stay with the Browns. Jack Conklin and Jed Wills, one of them might get moved. I doubt both of them get moved. But these two will likely have to be right at the NFL trade deadline because teams want to see if they can stay healthy over the next few weeks, as both guys are now back from their off-season knee surgeries and injuries from last year. But I'd almost put the house on Zadarius Smith will get traded, and the Detroit Lions make way too much sense with Aiden Hutchinson going down for them. So Smith a Lion. Harris, I think he's going to get moved. He's 34 years old. You've got Mike Hall back from his suspension. You got to start playing the young guy, see if you have anything there for the future. So these two, I'd put a high probability to get moved. Some guys not on this list that I could have added. David Njoku, I don't think he's going to get traded away, but I guess it's got a more than 0% chance of happening. Maybe Elijah Moore as well, but that's two receivers going out the door. I'm not quite sure if the Browns are willing to do that. But it would open up some more opportunities for Jamari Thrash and Cedric Tillman. So those are two guys that I guess could be lumped in as well. Joel Petonio, maybe, but similar to Nick Chubb, he's just so important to this franchise. I don't know if they would do that. Kind of like how Joe Thomas was here for his entire career, although he once almost got traded to the Broncos in 2015. So who knows? I've got more reaction and analysis to get to on this deal in just a moment here, but a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So just revisiting the Cooper trade here and kind of our last thoughts on Cooper as a Cleveland Browns wide receiver. I think he's a decent argument for best receiver in franchise history. The longevity element of it is going to really dampen his chances of that, but single season or single game receiving record and only player to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, one could make a decent argument for that. But honestly, though, like I said at the beginning, I am happy the Browns have accepted that this season is over, and getting a third-round pick for Cooper is honestly a little bit more than what I thought you would get. He only had about a $1.2 million base salary, so from here on out, whenever we're talking trades or whenever you see anyone else talking about trades, the only number you need to look at is their base salary. Don't look at their cap hit. It's irrelevant. Look at the base salary, take that number, go into your phone calculator, and divide it by 18. That is the number of game checks they get every single week. And if we have 10 weeks left, 11 weeks left, 12 weeks left, take that number you divide by 18 and multiply it by the remaining weeks of the schedule, and that's how much a new team would be picking up. So, going back to this Amari Cooper trade, how would you grade it? A, B, C, D, or F. I give it a B+. The only reason I'm not giving it an A is because it just represents sadness to me, and that is this season is over. It's over in the middle of October. You just don't want to get to the stage so quickly, and the Browns did, and it's just so soul-crushing because this was supposed to be the year it really all came together, and instead we come out of this season having so many questions, having no idea if the Browns have a good GM, a good head coach, what they're going to do at quarterback. There are so many questions that have to be answered, and I'm not even sure if they've got the guy there to answer those questions because the only person that's not going anywhere is Jimmy Haslam. And I'll give him credit. He spends money, and I do like that about ownership, but he has not done a great job of picking the right people. And so it's fair to say that heads may roll after this year. So on one hand, it's more draft capital for Andrew Berry. On the other hand, he has not done a very good job drafting. Like, just think about the third-round draft picks he made. Cedric Tillman, not very good so far. Cedric Tillman, David Bell, Martin Emerson was good, Jordan Elliott. There's just not a good run of third-round picks under Andrew Berry, and I'm not sure if he is the guy that you want orchestrating and engineering a retool, a reset, whatever you want to call it, simply because his strength has never been in the draft. Now, in slight defense of him, he hasn't had many first or second round draft picks to work with. So we're going to see a little bit of, Zach Zinter I can toss in there as well for third round pick. We're going to see a new side of Barry that we really haven't seen much of. But his 2 first round picks, like Jed Wills and Greg Newsome, are not started. Well, they're not Pro Bowl guys. And first round picks hopefully should be Pro Bowl guys. That's kind of the expectation, especially for a 10th overall pick. Both of them are, Greg Newsome is a starting caliber corner. Jed Wills, if he was not the 10th overall pick, would not have started this long, but the Browns continue to give him a super long leash. But both those picks have been flops. So there is a little bit of concern, and probably a little bit more than the word little, inside of me of, is Barry the right guy to run this show right now? Because this is a draft-oriented team, and that has not been his strong suit. So with all this being said, who should the Browns trade next? Give me a name in the comment section below. Greg Newsome is also someone that I could have mentioned earlier. The Browns really value corners, so it would take a little bit to move on from Newsome, but there have always been some level of trade rumors surrounding Greg, so definitely keep him in mind. I'm going to go with Zadarius Smith. He's 32 years old. He is not going to be here long term, and if the Lions want to get a replacement for Hutchinson, Smith could do a nice job of filling in. It's going to be impossible to replace Hutch, but this can give him at least a step in the right direction. So I'll go with Zadarius Smith to the Detroit Lions. Amari Cooper traded to the Buffalo Bills for a third-round draft pick and a day 3 pick swap. I do appreciate Coop for giving Browns fans plenty of great memories, and I'm going to miss wearing his jersey on Sunday, but this was, I think, the right and the correct move for the Browns to get a third-round pick and move on from a player that has not been a contributor to this team this year and help set you up for success in 2025 and beyond, hopefully, if you make something of that third-round pick. We got a super chat rolling in from Ben Broski. Fire Stefanski, bring in Belichick. Listen, when you're 1-5, I can't say a hard no to pretty much anything except for trading Myles Garrett. So if Bill wants to come to Cleveland, I don't think Belichick would want to come to Cleveland based on what's next for this franchise. And what's next for this franchise is some level of a retool or rebuild, right? I don't think Belichick wants to be a part of that. I think he'd want to go to a team like the Cowboys or the Eagles that he feels that he can step in and start winning right away. Ben, I do appreciate your super chat, though. Go Brownies. We got another one coming in from Joshua Miller. Keep Andrew Berry, dump offensive coaches, and get Ben Johnson. Are you also, I assume by this saying, fire Stefanski, because obviously you're not getting Ben Johnson to go from OC to OC. The thing that Stefanski has unfortunately gotten wrong is building a good staff around him for the most part. He's been the Browns head coach since 2020. Not many of his coordinators and coaches have been poached or hired elsewhere. A couple have. Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals take their OC, Drew Petzig, whatever his name was, from the Browns. But, I mean, think about his initial staff, right? Scott Prefer, fired. Joe Woods, fired. Alex Van Pelt, fired. And pretty soon, it's going to be Andy Dickerson, fired after 1 year. And I don't know how Chad O'Shea still has a job. The wide receivers in Cleveland, outside of Cooper coming in with just proven talent, they have not developed or built anything at that position. So, Josh, I'm with you. I still like, and this is unfortunately becoming a more and more unpopular opinion, I do believe in Andrew Berry. I do like Andrew Berry. And ultimately, the biggest scar right on him right now is Deshaun Watson. And I don't want to just give him a pass, but man, did anyone predict in 2021 or 2022 that Deshaun Watson would fall off this much? Not really. It's unfortunate, but I still think Andrew Berry is a good man running this franchise. But if this season continues to spiral, someone's head is going to be on the chopping block. Kirk Davis, what's going on, Kirk? I think we need to read Newsome because he always gets cooked on them one-on-ones. Newsome is an absolute disaster when it comes to crossing routes. I don't understand why, as a twitchy slot-type receiver, he cannot keep up with guys over the middle. And the thing that's driving me crazy about Greg Newsome recently is, and this is kind of a boomer take, man, when you're 1-5 and you're losing games, can you stop celebrating after an incomplete pass? Like, I get it. These guys work so hard in practice every week. This game is unforgiving, and it can be taken away from you, and you got to cherish every moment. But from an outsider's perspective, it looks really stupid when the quarterback overthrows the receiver and Newsome is doing a dance. So, Kirk, Greg Newsome could definitely be someone that gets shopped. Appreciate your super chat, Kirk. If you want to get on screen like the previous people have, super chat, and we'll throw it on for everyone watching to see. Otherwise, if you can't super chat, not an issue. Just use hashtag Browns in the chat, and producer Reed will pick his favorite questions, and we will include that in our mailbag, which will be coming up in about 20 to 25 or so minutes. 539 people tuned in right now, 156 likes. Can we get ourselves to 200 likes before we start our next segment, which is a 2025 mock draft? Reed's going to give some shout-outs here.
Yo, yo, yo. I got Caleb in the chat. Juice time. What is juice time? I wonder what juice time is. Just Chill, Ernie, Ace, Cool Guy. What's up, Cool Guy? Dominic in the chat. Hashtag Browns. If Watson is staying, do you think it would be wise to draft best position available at 2? And if it is not QB, perhaps go QB in round 2 or 3. I don't hate that. I think at this point, with Deshaun Watson, I think drafting best position or best player available, I think is the easiest thing.
Yeah,
I think that's the best. But
can you move the 2025 draft picks over? It didn't have the Bills one. Well, it had the Bills one, but it didn't have the Browns. Okay. Yeah, Browns have their own third round pick. Jarvis Landry. Yeah, Jarvis is done in the NFL. So, handful of questions coming in. The thing with the Cedric Tillman idea is that was supposed to be it last year. Like, they traded DPJ away to get Tillman a larger role. He's had opportunities. He's not making the most of them. It bums me out as a Tennessee grad. I thought it was going to be a much better pick. Hasn't worked out. It is looking to be a bust. I don't know. Third round pick is a little tough to say bust or a little harsh, but it is not looking like he is ever going to, turn into a number 1 or number 2 receiver in the NFL. Probably not going to even survive his entire rookie contract with the Browns, similar to Anthony Schwartz and David Bell and so many of their other third round picks. Okay, we are going to get into a mock draft. I thought you guys might enjoy that because, one, we haven't had fun mock drafts in a long time. Haven't had fun mock drafts since Greg Newsome. Haven't had a first-round pick in a long time. So, the Browns currently have the number 2 overall pick. I don't think it's going to stay that way. But maybe they will continue to just lose and lose. And maybe I'm too much of an optimist to believe they can somewhat turn it around, but man, it is tough to envision that happening now. All right, we are 17 likes away from 200. Once we get to 200 likes, we will start our mock draft. Let's see. Is Nick Chubb going to start next game? Ernie asks. Nick Chubb has not been officially ruled back yet, but it's somewhat expected that he will return this Sunday home against the Bengals. It's got to be difficult for this Browns locker room to focus on this week. I mean, quickly at 1-5, you feel like all of your efforts have gone down the drain and there is nothing left to play for, but they have to be pros about it, and they've got to find a way to focus up even with Amari Cooper no longer on the team. Night Fright, good to see you in the chat. We're seeing a lot of some old or longtime viewers. All right, we have 1 like to go until we get to 200 likes. Amari to Buffalo saves Matt from the polar plunge. What was my polar plunge? I know I made one, but Tim, just remind me. What did I say in order for the polar plunge? Wasn't it? I don't remember. You got to fill me in, Tim. Getting old, man. Getting old. Okay. 203 likes. We have a full mock draft, or a full 2-round mock draft. It's too early to do all 7 rounds. Joshua Miller with a $2 super chat. Was it Cooper? It was Cooper related something. I don't remember what it was, but I do feel like I am now safe from a polar plunge in February. Okay, Josh. How many games will it take Chubb to get to 100 yards? I'll go with game number 3, he gets to 100 yards. Game number 1, I'm thinking 9 carries for 55 yards. Game 2, 12 carries for 78. And then game 3, 16 carries for 115 yards. Book that. Max Nikolenko. Max, awesome to see you in the chat. Appreciate you. And another $2 super chat coming in from Steven. We're going to hit both of these supers, and then we're going to jump into our mock draft. If you want to get on screen like Josh and everyone else, though, super chat, and we'll throw it on for everyone watching. Good trade. Now time to go get rid of 71. Can we find someone to take him? That is, unfortunately, step number 1. I don't disagree, and I do not oppose this whatsoever. I just don't know who would trade for Jed Wills right now. He hasn't been very good, and he's also coming off a knee injury. So you just got to think about it from 31 other GM seats. Which GM right now is sitting at their desk right now, having a late lunch, and thinks, that guy from Cleveland, let's get him. The left tackle, he's going to turn around our offensive line. If you can find that guy, please get Andrew Berry connected with him. Organize a Zoom or something. I don't care. Little coffee shop meetup. But I'm with you, Max. Steven, first time super chatter. Steven, thank you so much for supporting the channel. 2 claps for Steven, everyone. 1, 2. Okay. Zadarius Smith, Soul Train, is a lion. I'm ready to say that right now. He is going to be a lion. You heard it here first. No doubt in my mind. Adil Khan, 100%. I got to envision it's kind of like the scene in Moneyball when Billy Bean is bouncing in between phone calls. The phone lines in Maria right now have to be buzzing with teams calling to inquire on everyone else on their roster. Okay. Are we ready to jump into this mock draft? I'm ready. You guys are ready? Let's do it. It is mock draft season. The Browns traded Amari Cooper away. We're filming our mock draft during our live show following that trade. My last time wearing my Cooper jersey. But yes, with the Browns back in round 1 for the first time since 2021, it is time to do a mock draft. So here is the updated NFL draft order following week 6. The Browns currently hold the 2nd overall pick. There's a lot of tiebreakers. A lot of it comes down to strength of schedule. So it'll all sort itself out. But for now, they have pick number 2. Here is what I think here are the current Browns draft picks for 2025. They have a 1st, a 2nd. They have 2 thirds now. So they're poised to have 4 picks in the top 100. If Andrew Berry is still the GM, and that's a big if with the way the season has gone, I think he will be. he's going to have a good amount of capital to work with. Now, here is my prediction, just my prediction for what the draft order will be and everyone's record at the end of the year. I think the Patriots and the Panthers are going to be duking it out for the number 1 overall pick, followed by the Titans, the Jags, and the Raiders. I don't know why I believe this, but I think the Browns might get to 6 wins. And that's Looney Tune talk right now, but why not be a bit of an optimist? Giants, Saints, Rams, and Dolphins follow suit. So we'll see how this ages, but the Browns currently have the 2nd overall pick, so we're going to proceed with that, but I think they will fall back from number 2. So with that, let's get into our mock draft, starting with pick number 1. As it currently stands, the New England Patriots are on the clock, and in our mock draft simulator from Pro Football Focus, they selected Travis Hunter, the wide receiver cornerback. And then with the 2nd overall pick, I selected Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. Now, it's important to note that I approach mock drafts as what I think the Browns will do, not what I would do, because I don't think it's worth your time watching a video of what I would do since I'm not the one making the picks. I want to serve your time best by thinking about what the Browns might do. So I could see Andrew Berry looking to reinforce the trenches with a surefire left tackle. The junior out of Louisiana is a monster of a human being, 6'6", 323 pounds. He is a rare example of a true freshman starting at left tackle in the SEC, where you go up against some of the best pass rushers in college football. So one of the top recruits coming out of Monroe, Louisiana, Campbell has been a surefire thing and as good and as consistent as they come for the Tigers since year number 1. You can look at his stats and career PFF grades. It's early in this year, so I'm not going to read too much into his PFF overall through 7 games so far. But one thing that jumps out to me is he has not allowed a sack since his freshman year. I mean, Jaden Daniels was clean when Will was to his left all of last year, and the same goes for Nussmeier this year. But the Browns need to fix their offensive line. I understand that some of you are hoping that maybe it's a quarterback at pick number 2. I don't think Andrew Berry, and again, I'm trying to think what Berry would do, not what I would do. I think Andrew Berry is going to start by fixing the things around the quarterback that were issues this year. And if it doesn't work out in 2025, it's a lot easier to move on from Deshaun Watson after 4 years than 3 years. And if it doesn't work out with Watson, whoever steps in next year will at least have a franchise left tackle awaiting them, which is much more of much better situation for a rookie to step into than a rookie stepping into its current offensive line makeup. It's also worth noting that the Browns are likely going to gut some of their older veteran players, and a lot of those guys are on the offensive line. From over the cap, here are the cap hits for 2025. I mean, Jack Conklin at $19.4 million is probably not going to stand. Petonio and Teller both making about $15-ish million. Don't see a world where both of those guys are back at that number. I could see Posick coming back. Here's my envision plan for, not what I would do, but what I think is likely going to happen. You put Will Campbell at left tackle. You keep Petonio. You keep Posick. You put Zach Zinter starting at right guard, and you move Jed Wills from left tackle to right tackle because he has failed at left tackle. And I know he only played right tackle at Alabama because Tua was a lefty, but maybe give him a shot at right tackle and see if he can turn around his career. Plus, at $11 million, he's on the final year of his contract. It's not a crazy amount of money to hold on to, but it's also not a tiny amount of money where you can just overlook it. So that is what I project the offensive line could look like next year. So grade my first round draft pick A, B, C, D, or F. If Will Campbell is the selection, the 6'6" left tackle from LSU who has not allowed a sack since his freshman year, how would you feel about it? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I know that everyone is hoping to get a quarterback, but ultimately I think quarterback is going to wait another year. Now, before we look at the rest of the mock draft, including round number 2, and we'll see who the Browns took at the beginning of that round, a quick shout out to a brand new sponsor of ours. Guys, we know Cleveland is built different, and so are their fans. And for those fans there's only one way to protect their gutters. That is Leaf Filter. Leaf Filter has been protecting gutters in Northeast Ohio for nearly 20 years. As the official gutter guard of the Cleveland Browns, Leaf Filter has a limited time offer for Browns fans, up to 32% off your entire qualified purchase and 2 free official Browns jerseys at leaffilter.com/report. An investment in Leaf Filter is an investment engineered to protect your whole home. Clogged gutters aren't just a nuisance. They can cause extensive water damage. And do-it-yourself and store-bought solutions may be cheaper up front, but can cost you more in the long run. Every installation comes with a lifetime no-clogs guarantee. So let Leaf Filter's trusted pro handle it. Call today to schedule your free gutter inspection and get a no-obligation free estimate. A Leaf Filter trusted pro will clean out, realign, and seal your gutters before installing Leaf Filter. Schedule your free inspection now, and for a limited time, get up to 32% off your entire qualified purchase and 2 free Browns jerseys at leaffilter.com/report. That's a free inspection, up to 32% off, and 2 free Browns jerseys with qualified purchase at leaffilter.com/report. Offer valid on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. Full terms and conditions can be found at leaffilter.com/report. See representatives for warranty details. So after seeing where Hunter and Campbell ended up, I thought you guys might enjoy how the rest of this Pro Football Focus mock draft. So we'll kind of sprint through it a little bit, but the Jags go with Will Johnson out of Michigan. Jalen Milroe, the first quarterback off the board. I'm not so sure about that one. To the Panthers. Also, do they want to go back-to-back Alabama quarterbacks? The receiver that everyone is chasing from Arizona, McMillan, he goes to the Rams. And then we'll just kind of fast forward through the rest of this mock draft, but thought you guys might enjoy it. Cam Ward going to the Titans. How about Luther Burden from Mizzou, another great receiver, to the Saints. Shedeur Sanders to the Giants. I think Sanders is going to be a bit of a tough nut to crack in the pre-draft process simply because of the Deion effect, and I also believe there is no way Deion will let Shedeur play for the Browns. I just don't see that happening. Moving along here, another potential target for the Browns that ends up in Chicago, Kelvin Banks, the second best tackle in this draft class. Again, it's so early in the draft process that it's really tough to know where people are going to end up accurately, but this at least gives you a rough idea. Emeka Egbuka going to the Chargers to play under Jim Harbaugh. Awkward. Moving along here, how about the Packers adding a Big Ten tight end, Colson Loveland, and we see the Steelers add a linebacker out of Oklahoma. So with that, we can look at the final couple of picks here. I know a lot of you were hoping that maybe the Ole Miss transfer to Ole Miss, Judkins, could go to the Browns. He ends up going to the Vikings at pick 32, and here's how the rest of that first round unfolded. So round 1 in the books. Now we move on to round 2, where the Browns have the 34th overall pick, right behind the Patriots at pick 33. And so with that 34th overall selection, the Browns go with Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State. Now, for any of my fellow degenerate gamblers out there, you may have been up late at night watching some Aggies football like myself. And I didn't know much about Royals up until the end of last year, and I knew going into this year he'd be someone to keep an eye on. The 6', 205-pound receiver doesn't really have he's not a one-trick pony is what I'm trying to say here, right? He's not just a gadget guy. He's not just a jump ball guy. He runs a pretty good extensive route tree. He's had some great plays where he takes a wide receiver screen to the house. He's also got plays where he's winning jump balls. Now, at 6 foot, he's not going to be a monster receiver in the end zone, but he's had terrific numbers at Utah State. In 2023, he set a school record for touchdowns in a year at 15. He's off to a good start this year. It's not like he's got a ton of great quarterback talent around him there as well in Logan, Utah. So these numbers coming out of the Mountain West are definitely worth looking at. And I understand that without that without Amari Cooper on this team anymore, they've got to take a good look at the receiver class in this upcoming draft. And maybe they decide to go with the receiver in round 1, but my gut tells me they will like the receivers in round 2 more than the offensive tackles in round 2. And ultimately, you're only going to go as far as your offensive line takes you. And so for the Browns, I think that's a bigger priority to attack in round number 1. People won't want to hear this, but this is just what I am predicting, not what I think the Browns should do. And please separate those two things. I think 2025 next year will be one last-ditch effort for Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. I think financially it is too difficult to move on from him after this season. I don't think Jimmy Haslam wants to accept that. I think Haslam, and I don't know if Stefanski's actually believing what he says, can chalk some of it up to the receivers dropping balls and the offensive line being poor. And so the Browns decide, okay, we're going to attack the draft. We have a lot of early picks now, and we're going to get the best tackle. We're going to get a great wide receiver, and we're going to try and salvage something out of Deshaun Watson. And if it doesn't work in 2025, then we can move on with just 1 year left on his contract. And financially, that's much more feasible than the way it is constructed right now. That's not what you wanted to hear, and I get that. I understand, and I feel your pain. That's just what I think the Browns are going to do. So, should the Browns draft a quarterback in 2025? I'm usually all for drafting a quarterback almost every year, unless you have like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Like we saw with the 49ers, even though you think you got something in Trey Lance, like it can't hurt to throw a dart at the board and see if you get a bullseye in day 3. And I'm definitely open to that as well. I don't think the Browns are going to use one of their first or second and probably not even their third round picks on a quarterback, because it's like, if you want a quarterback, then go get one in round 1. If you don't want a quarterback, then don't just like half-ass it with a second or a third round pick. Just wait until day 3 of the draft and see if you can win a scratch-off lottery ticket. But don't have this like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of, we want to get a quarterback, we don't want to use a first-round pick on it, so we're going to do a second-round pick on it. What? No, don't do that. That hardly ever works out. I can think of like 1 or 2 examples, like I guess Russell Wilson, Andy Dalton, Derek Carr. And there's a lot of misses in that era as well. So for me, I would say yes, but I don't think it's going to be in the first 2 days of the draft. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoy our content, go follow us on Instagram, Browns Report IG, posting content over there. So I appreciate those of you that support our channel across multiple platforms. And if you're still watching our video right now, you know I love the end of the video squad. So scroll on down and drop a CLE for me. That way I know who watches all the way until the end. Max Nikolenko, what's going on, Max? Number 2 looks like an unlucky number for the Browns. Manziel? Cooper. We're not Pooper. We like Amari Cooper. Like, it's not that it even didn't work out. It did work out. It didn't work out because the team sucked. If the Browns were not playing well, if the Browns were playing well right now, if the Browns were just 3-3, Amari Cooper is still on this team, even with all the drops and even with all the issues he's had. It's simply because you got a third-round pick for a team that's 1-5. How do you say no to that? You can't. Max, yeah, number 2, definitely not retired, but maybe just avoid it. Free the real. Stefanski and Barry destroyed us. We had Super Bowl expectations, and now we are back to the old Browns. Barry is a snake, and Baker and Kareem are better off. It is so depressing to think about the power the Browns had on this roster and how talented it was, which some of it has to be credited to Andrew Barry for constructing that roster, but then how it just so quickly slipped away. It needs to be studied. I don't have the one quick response as to how it all unfolded like it did. Guess you could just say the Deshaun Watson trade. I don't think the Browns were going to win a Super Bowl with Baker, but it definitely would not be as bad as they are right now. That's for sure. Free the real. First time super chatter. 2-clap action. Little 1-2. Free the real. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. Go Brownies. And Baker leads the NFL in touchdowns, and Kareem Hunt's probably going to have a pretty good year for the Chiefs. What's new? Ace Solomon. I'm going to laugh my ass off when Watson and Kevin turn this offense around after starting 1-5 and save the season with a late push. Have faith. Pass it around, dude. Whatever you're smoking or drinking, give everyone a sip or a puff. Because I would love to see this happen, but I am not putting a dime on the Browns. Like, I like how, by the way, a late put. You won't even say they make the playoffs, too. Just turn it around. I had the Browns winning 6 games. So does that count as turning it around? 5, 6 wins? Like, can they get 4 or 5 more? I do not think they are going to do this, dude. But I do respect and admire your confidence. I was with you when they were 1-3 going into the Raiders game. Like, I was like, this has to be it, right? Or 1-2 going into the Raiders game. And when you lose to a Raiders team that is as dysfunctional as they are, it ain't your year. Ace of Solomon, thank you so much, though, for the super chat. I do appreciate it. We got another super chat flying in from Rigbone708. And then we have a mailbag to get to next. So if you have any questions at all, super chat or use the hashtag Browns in the chat, and we will throw it on screen in our mailbag for everyone watching to answer. Okay, Rigbone708 with Coop gone is Judy number 1, wide receiver 1 officially by Wills. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy is the number 1 wide receiver on this team for this year and next year for sure. And honestly, somewhat thank God they extended him, because if they didn't, they'd be paying more than they did. And they'd be paying more than they did back in April when they extended him, and they at least have some stability at that position moving forward. So goodbye, Jed Wills. I hope so. Hope they can get something for him. I don't see any team that would trade for him, though. That one seems a bit unlikely to me. Okay. We have a mailbag coming up next. So hashtag Browns or super chat. If you super chat, we guarantee your question gets on screen for everyone watching. Hashtag Browns, and producer Reed will pick his favorite question. So mailbag coming up. I appreciate everyone for hanging out with us during our live today. Not the live we were hoping to have today. The live that I was planning to have, by the way, if you're curious, was the mock draft and also talking about trade rumors. And the 2 trade rumors, Zadarius Smith to the Lions and Amari Cooper somewhere. Just couldn't quite let this plan get off the ground before they traded Cooper. Okay, so mailbag coming up next. Producer Reed, let me know when you are ready to jump into it. I see Dallas is getting a question in. Drew is getting a question in. Monk use Browns in front or behind it? I don't know what that is, but I am watching the show Monk right now, and I do love that show. Steven Haslam pushed approval for the trade, or else Haslam would have fired Barry by now. I think Haslam and Barry are equally dumbfounded. Like, they both wanted this, hand in hand. So for Haslam to fire Barry, you're kind of firing your other half, right? I mean, basically the way it went down with Watson was the Browns were told they were out of it, and then Andrew Barry says, well, Jimmy Haslam tells Andrew Barry, what if we guarantee all the money? And then Watson changes his mind. Mark with a $5 super chat. Oh, this is something. At this point, I'd give up 2 first-round picks for someone to take Watson off our hands. The thing is, Mark, the team is not taking the contract off your hands. Like, that cap hit is not going anywhere. So it would be worth exploring to get the cap hits removed from your books. But you can't do that by trading him away. So for that reason, if you could trade Watson and a first away to be absolved of his contract, then yeah. Not this year, maybe a few. See, this is the top 5 draft pick this year, probably. At least top 10, for sure. Kind of like Brock Osweiler with the Browns and the Texans, but not quite the same level of money. Okay. So we're going to jump into a mailbag. If you have any questions right now, here, we'll start right at the first question. No. Start right at the first one. Get right into the meat potatoes here. We have a lot of questions coming in. So we'll just kind of rapid fire these bad boys. Okay. I am ready when you guys are. Appreciate everyone again for hanging out with us, sticking around. Jessica has a question. Ryan has a question. All right. Are we ready to rumble, boys and girls? Hit that thumbs up button if you have just tuned in. And let's get ourselves into a live Cleveland Browns mailbag. Mailbag time here on the Cleveland Browns Report. I'm answering questions that were asked during our live show following the Amari Cooper trade. First one coming in via Super Chat from Ben Broski. Fire Kevin Stefanski, bring in Bill Belichick. I don't think Belichick would want to go to Cleveland given everything going on here right now. I think Belichick is either going to be the Cowboys or the Eagles head coach next year. But, I mean, a return to Cleveland would be kind of cool and poetic for his career line. Ben, appreciate your super chatting question, though. Josh, keep Andrew Berry, dump the offensive coaches, and get Ben Johnson. The thing with, dumping Stefanski is I don't think Stefanski is truly as bad as the record and sometimes the fans make him out to be. But Ben Johnson and the Lions are doing a great job right now, so hard to say no to that idea. But I think ultimately Berry and Stefanski are here to stay. I think we're going to see Ken Dorsey be a one and done. And Jim Schwartz, I think, is here to stay. And then a lot of other coaching changes like Andy Dickerson and Chad O'Shea, a couple of position coaches that have to be removed. Josh, appreciate your question, though. Kirk, I think we need to read Newsome because he's always getting cooked on them one-on-ones. Yeah, Greg Newsome could definitely be the next player moved. I mean, just off the top of my head here, a couple of guys that could get traded. Zadarius Smith, Shelby Harris. I mean, two defenders that are over the age of 30. And if the Browns do want to move on from one of their corners, it would be Newsome. Denzel, I don't think should get traded. Martin Emerson is too young and too cheap to trade. Newsome definitely a trade candidate for the Browns. So I could see Newsome getting dealt if a team is looking to add to their cornerback room. We'll see if that happens now or maybe closer to that November 5th trade deadline. Max, good trade involving Amari Cooper. Now time to get rid of Jed Wills. If you can find someone to trade for Jed Wills, please send them to Berea, Ohio, and get them in contact with Andrew Berry because I would be 100% behind that. Just stick DeJuan Jones or Jack Conklin at left tackle and continue on and get something for a guy that just has unfortunately been a first-round flop. Free the real. Stefanski and Berry destroyed us. We had Super Bowl expectations, and now we are back to the old Browns. Berry is a snake, and Baker and Kareem are better off. It is a gut punch. I can't soften the blow. This was such a talented roster for a good stretch of time, too, that was just unfortunately so underwhelming. 2 playoff appearances, no playoff wins, or 1 playoff win, 2020. I was thinking of kind of this post-Baker Browns. And we'll see if Watson can end the year on a high-ish note to give us a little bit of hope for next year. And maybe just kind of, okay, we end the year, we a horrible start, but we kind of end the year playing 500 football, maybe end with 6 or 7 wins. And we're going to go into the draft, and we're going to use our first-round pick on an offensive tackle. We're going to bring in a new young wide receiver to pair with Jerry Jeudy. And if Deshaun Watson can just put that disastrous start to the 2024 season behind him, maybe we can get back to where we were supposed to be. A lot of ifs there, but that's kind of the only path I see that's optimistic for the Browns. Rigbone, with Cooper gone, is Jeudy wide receiver 1 officially? Yes, and something that I'll say I'm very happy I was wrong on. Extending him, Jerry Jeudy, is looking like a great decision for the Browns. Because had they not extended him back in April with the way he has played so far, I think he would have gotten a bigger payday in the offseason. But you also at least have some level of stability. Because if you did not extend Jeudy, I mean, you were going into this year with Cooper, Jeudy, and Elijah Moore all on the final years of their contract. You could be looking at a complete wide receiver room overhaul. At least now you're kind of keeping some things that are good pieces where they should be. Rigbone, appreciate your super chat. Mark, at this point, I'd give up 2 first-round picks for someone to take Watson off our hands. If only they could take the cap hits off our hands. That, unfortunately, cannot be accomplished in a trade, but I feel your pain. This is probably not the year to trade the Browns' first-round pick away, though. It's going to be a top 10 pick, maybe even top 5. As things stand right now, it's the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. All right, before we get to the other questions on today's episode, a quick shout out to our wonderful sponsor, Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time offers the Game Time guarantee as well. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So save $20 on that first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. We got some more questions coming in. Kirk Davis, you think we should trade Tillman at this point? No, because you're not going to get anything for Tillman. Whenever it comes to trades, you have to think about the other side. What team is going to call and offer you anything other than a 2026 7th-round pick for Cedric Tillman? No one. So if you're only going to get a bag of peanuts, might as well hold on and see if he can show us something the rest of the season. Kirk, I do appreciate your super chat, though. We have some other questions coming in we can get to here in just a moment. Dallas, Wyatt Teller to the Bears for a 2025 third-round pick and a 2025 fifth-round pick. Wyatt Teller to the Bears for a 2025 fifth-round pick is feasible. The Bears are not giving up a third and a fifth for an interior offensive lineman who's towards the end of his career and is a expensive cap hit for next season and is coming off a knee injury midseason. You're just not going to get that from Chicago. You might get a fifth or a sixth, though. And at that point, sure, keep starting Zach Sinter, see if he can be a starting guard for us for the next 3 to 4 seasons. Night Fright, are we going to tank this year to get a top quarterback in the draft? I don't believe so, because I don't think this is the year to tank for a quarterback. Like last year, that was kind of the case. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, right? They all went 1, 2, 3. We're not going to see quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3 this year. And there are some teams that need quarterbacks that might pass on a quarterback. So I don't think the Browns are going to actually openly tank. And I don't think they're going to try and get I don't think they're going to get a quarterback. I know that's not what a lot of you want to hear. This was my mock draft selection. Offensive tackle out of LSU, Will Campbell. I believe the Browns are going to give Deshaun Watson the 4th year of his contract, unless things even get worse than they are right now for him. And they're going to reload a little bit on the offensive line, bring in some new young receivers, and go, this is it, Watson. Do or die, year 4 in Cleveland. If not this year, we're moving on, and your NFL career is done. AG Productions, thoughts on a Nick Chubb to the Vikings trade? I'm not trading Nick Chubb. I'm not trading Nick Chubb for a few reasons. Reason number one, he is one of those untradeable players, in my opinion. He is so important to the locker room and to the fan base. I just don't think you can make that trade with how bad the Browns are doing PR-wise. This is going to light the city on fire. So, no. And also because I don't think the Vikings would do it. They're not going to give the Browns anything worth a damn. So unless Nick Chubb goes to the Browns and says, please trade me so I can go play for a contending team before my career is up, the Vikings are not going to offer you more than a 6th or a 7th, which at that point the Browns go, might as well hold on to Chubb. Is a 6th or 7th round pick worth the PR nightmare we're going to have on our hands when we trade away the most popular player in the team's history for the last 6 years? Probably not. Caleb Jeffrey, T. Higgins. I don't think the Browns are going to be big spenders in free agency this year. I think this year is going to be a we kind of got to get our books straight a little bit because we've got some dead cap hits coming our way. Amari Cooper's got a $25 million dead cap hit awaiting the Browns for 2025. So I don't think they're going to be big spenders. Plus, Andrew Berry traditionally hasn't really been a big spender in free agency. The biggest contract he's given out was Dalvin Tomlinson. Is it a 4-year, $60-ish million contract? Something like that? 65? I don't remember. But point being is, T. Higgins, I think, is going to get more than that. I don't think it's going to be in Cleveland. White Wolf 22. I know they are not benching Watson, but is there a chance Winston or DTR gets a chance to play? There's a group of people out there saying start DTR. DTR showed improvement last year. DTR at this point, I think the coaches have seen enough from DTR to have a good idea as to what he is as a quarterback, and I don't think he's a future franchise quarterback for the Browns. I think it's somewhat similar to like Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders, where people just want something different, but it's not going to be any better. Or like Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi in New England. Sure, you can try the young guy, but it's probably a good reason why he's quarterback 3 on this depth chart. It's probably a good reason why the Browns paid Jameis Winston $5 million to be the actual backup. So I'm not really interested in starting DTR. Jameis can maybe be a stopgap quarterback for next year. So if you want to get a look at that this year, okay. But I think Watson is going to start for the rest of the year unless things get much, much worse. And I think he's probably going to come back next year. Fellow needs us. I'm just going to call you Monk. Needs speed and hands at wide receiver. Maybe Thrash and Tillman shine in a larger role. When Chubb turns out to be, we'll decide if running back or wide receiver. What Chubb turns out to be, we'll decide if running back or wide receiver comes off the board first. If the Browns were at least like good this year, we could talk about Ashton Genty just stepping in and replacing Nick Chubb. How fun would that be? If the Browns were good this year, maybe come up short or whatever, and then they just reload with Genty out of Boise State. You can't take a running back if you are the Browns. You're going to be in the same spot the New York Giants were with Saquon, where it's not a luxury you can afford yourself when you are a 1-5 team. So I think it's going to go offensive tackle and then wide receiver. Probably sign a cheap veteran free agent running back as well. A. Solomon, I'm going to laugh my ass off when Watson and Kevin turn this offense around after starting 1-5 and save this season around with a late push. A. Solomon, I don't know whose burner you are, but credit to you for having this much faith. You've got the faith of this entire chat right now because I do not have faith in the Browns turning the season around and making the playoffs. I could see them at one stretch maybe going like 3-3 in the last 6 games, maybe ending the year with 6 wins, dare I say 7, but nothing more than that. Jimmy J, who could be the next on the trade block for the Browns? It's Darius Smith. I think it's going to be a Detroit Lion. Wyatt Teller or Joel Petonio, I could see getting dealt. Shelby Harris, I definitely see getting traded. I think these two are near locks to get traded. If anyone's interested in one of these banged-up offensive linemen from last year, have at it. Greg Newsome, David Njoku, but I don't think the Browns want to trade Njoku, so a team would have to give him an offer they can't refuse, like a 3rd-round draft pick or maybe even a 2nd, but that seems unlikely. So these two right here, if I had to put money down, are the next two to get traded. Okay, last question coming in from Brian. Trade Haslam for a bag of trash. Like a flexi, like a good bag, or just like a flimsy bag? The thing with Haslam is I understand that at the end of the day, you are likely as a franchise only going to be as successful as ownership is, and sometimes a good coach and good GM can at least put together a 10 or 11 win season, eke out a playoff appearance, and then regress for the next 4 or 5 years, and then put together another surprising run. But if there's one thing to give Haslam credit for, at least he is willing to spend money. You know how much worse it would be if it was a poor Jimmy Haslam? Like Haslam with the bad decision-making and Haslam that doesn't spend money. So we can at least be somewhat thankful that he'll spend, although he's not spending it at the great places. All right, before we sign off, though, let me know who you got for this Sunday. Browns or Bengals, get in the chat and let me know. I'm going to take the Bengals. It's just all falling apart. Maybe a loss to the Bengals at home, maybe a home loss is what Jimmy Haslam needs to see to decide we have to try something different at quarterback. All right, everyone. If we get some more super chats, we'll hang out a little bit longer. Otherwise, we'll let you get back to the rest of your Tuesday. Appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching with us. Jerry Miller, if they keep playing Watson, mark me down. He will be on IR before the end of the season. He doesn't want to play. I disagree. If Deshaun Watson didn't want to play, I think he would have been benched earlier in some of the games. They were blowouts, but he continued to go out there and play. If he wanted to be injured, he's taken enough hits to go, my shoulder. He hasn't done that. I truly think the guy wants to play. I think his teammates still kind of believe in him. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but the way they talk about Watson, they could go up there and give the most vanilla responses. Hey, what does the locker room think about 4? Oh, he's doing a great job out there. He's battling for us, and we're going to try and turn this thing around. They could just say that. Instead, I got Deontay Foreman writing poetry about how much they love Watson. There's overkill. Ace of Solomon, another super chat. Ace of Solomon, thank you so much, man. Browns 11-6. So is that one more loss? Finish and squeak in the playoffs if they make the right moves. Trade for Hopkins, get a burner like Thrash on the field, and run the ball more. Well, they could probably trade for Hopkins if they really wanted to. The Titans are going nowhere. Thrash will be on the field this Sunday. With Amari Cooper gone, he will be activated for the first time this year. And Nick Chubb coming back will run the ball more. So, Ace of Solomon, you can potentially get your wish. I don't think it's going to result in the Browns winning 10 out of their next 11 games, though. Joshua Miller, if we end up with a top 3 draft pick, do we stay and take the best player available or move down a few spots to get draft capital to continue rebuild? Josh, this is an excellent question, and it's not a simple answer. There are, basically 2 schools of thought. Bears eat beats. There is one train of thought, which is let's get as many draft picks as we can, right? Let's get a bunch of lottery tickets, okay? Kind of look at the draft as a lottery. Do you want 3 lottery tickets that have a 1 in 20 chance of winning? Or do you want 1 lottery ticket that has a 1 in 5 chance of winning? I would lean towards the 1 in 5 chance. I know the Browns have a bunch of holes they need to fill going into the next season, but I'm in the camp of I like 1 great player over 2 maybe good players. Chances are of those 2 other picks, if you go from 2 to, let's say, 7, and you pick up an extra, let's say 2 to 7, you pick up a second rounder. Chances are those 2 new picks you acquired, 1 will be good, 1 probably not. I'd rather have the more higher probability of the player being a great starting Pro Bowl caliber guy. So it would be fun to acquire more picks, don't get me wrong, but unless someone is calling up because the Browns have a pick that a team wants to get a quarterback with and they're willing to give you the house, I would stay put.
The Browns could do something really hilarious right now.
What's that?
So Schefter just tweeted out, on the day that they traded for Amari Cooper, the Bills announced they released wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Sign MVS?
It's just sign MVS.
Yeah. So, Josh, I would say unless someone is willing to give you an insane offer because you have a pick they want to use to get a quarterback, I would lean towards staying put. Give me a Will Johnson, or give me a Will Campbell, or I guess maybe Will Johnson, but give me a Will Campbell, give me a Kelvin Banks, give me a McMillan from Arizona. Give me a surefire thing rather than 2 Greg Newsoms, right? Would you rather have 1 Denzel Ward or 2 Greg Newsoms? I'd rather have the 1 Denzel Ward. That's how I look at it. All right, that will do it for us. If we get some more supers, we'll keep going. But I do appreciate, Josh, I love asking excellent questions. You do ask a lot of good ones. If we keep getting some more super chats, like I said, we'll keep going. Otherwise, we will sign off and just try and power through the rest of this miserable, depressing season. Football is the best. But when you are bad, it is so painful because I'm like probably every 209, all 297 people watching right now. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm still going to watch every Sunday. And I'm going to try and convince myself, but I'm going to get heartbroken every time. Like, it's so much easier to do that for baseball or NBA or NHL. I can't abandon football. Bees Craiglist, leading league in penalties, drops, hurry sacks, and last in yards of carry, but it's the quarterback. When the quarterback is looking at an open receiver, though, and doesn't throw him the football, how is that not on him? That's why I've maintained this position of, listen, changing Watson for Winston is not going to change the result of these games, but trying the same thing after 6 weeks when you can't even get more than 20 points is accepting stupidity. It's accepting failure. No, I don't think Watson is the sole issue with this offense. I think the advanced analytics are cooked up by some weird calculator that no one really knows how we get to, and I don't think they tell the whole story of Watson this year. But I know this much. There have been one too many examples of Watson missing players, bad throws, or missed opportunities, holding onto the ball for too long, where we just can't keep trotting the same product out every single time and expecting something to change. Joshua Miller. This will be our last super chat unless we get one more. Okay. Josh, trade similar to Panthers-Bears, do we do it? 110%. If there is a team that is willing to overpay because you have a pick they want to use on a quarterback, then do it. Yes. If there is a team that wants to trade up just because they want to get a better player and they're not going to overpay, then I would not do it. The only reason I would trade back is if someone gives you more than what that pick is worth. There is a trade value chart. It assigns a number value to every single pick. And so let's say the pick number 2 is worth 3,000 points. And a team gives you an offer that equals 3,000, I wouldn't do it. Because I'd rather just have that high draft pick than 2 medium picks. But if a team gives you an offer more than what the pick is worth, yes, the Browns should do that. Steven, Josh, I do appreciate your question. Got dad to watch the first time ever, 75-year fan. Steven, are you the 75-year fan? If so, your dad is up there in the age column. But, or your dad's a 75-year fan and you got him to watch. Oh, watch the show, I think, maybe. Oh, my gosh, I was thinking of the games. I was like, man, kudos to your pops for hanging out this long. Steven, thank you so much for getting your dad, I assume, to watch the show after horribly misreading the beginning of that. And go Brownies. Hope you guys enjoy the content. We're always putting out daily content here. So subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. I'm not some Pakistani scammer that's going to get all your information. So hit that sub button, and we'll keep you guys in the know all year long. Max Nikolenko, would Jags consider trading Trevor Lawrence? No. They just paid him. I think they want to have, even if it's not good, stability at the quarterback position. Trevor Lawrence is going to be in Jacksonville for a minimum of 2 years beyond this season. At least 2025 and at least 2026. Steven, yep, it's Dad. Oh, I love you guys too. A little water cheers. Josh.
See you, Josh. Have a good night.
We'll catch you later. Okay. The crazy thing, by the way, about got to bench Watson, I don't know how you'd find a metric or a stat. I don't know. Let's say the Browns bench Watson right now. Let's say they decide to change their mind. They're benching Watson for week 7. Has a quarterback, and again, this is very niche or very specific, ever been benched when in their last 5 games they threw 1 interception? Usually, if a quarterback gets benched, the first reason is the turnovers. You know what I mean? Last year in New England, who remembers watching the Patriots-Panthers game in Germany? Mac Jones. Was that the first time he got benched? Regardless, look at all benching quarterbacks. It always starts with turnovers. Usually when they get benched mid-game, it is right after an interception. That's kind of the crazy thing is Watson's going to get benched or could get benched and he'll have a total of 1 interception since week 1. When he had 2 that week, which are isn't good, but that's a little overreaction just to bench after 1 week. So that's kind of just I don't know how you find or prove or see if that's ever happened before, but find a quarterback that in their previous 5 games before being benched only turned it over once. It's got to be a first. Has to be. Okay.
A-Money edits. I feel that. He said I feel bad for Jared Jeudy. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, he was it a trade or was it free agency from the Broncos? It was a trade, right?
Yep, trade. Monk, how many of the drops were touchdowns or took points off the board? The last interception was 100% on Cooper. The Cowboys one took points off the board, but that was in garbage time anyway. The Jags one, I think, would have been a touchdown. And the Raiders one was a point swap. Would have been 3 for the Browns. And instead, it was 7 for the Raiders. At least a 10-point difference, which would have won them the game. So you can really point to some of these Cooper drops and go, yeah, that cost him some points, and that cost Watson some stat padding. Okay. That's going to do it for us on today. Oh, Deshaun Watson's in the chat. Whoa! 4 can't do it all by Watson. You can't use your real account. You got to go to the burner. Bickerstaff. Come on, man. I don't think that's Watson's burner, though.
You gotta talk to Kevin Durant. He knows exactly what to do.
Yeah. By the way, when the day comes when the Browns move on from Deshaun Watson, do you think they tweet about it like a goodbye? Probably not. I think about this because when Baker was on the Browns still, his birthday came, and whoever runs the Browns Twitter account clearly just like schedules out tweets for everyone's birthdays. But there was no birthday tweet for Baker. He was still on the roster. So I always wonder, like, are they going to give Watson a goodbye post? Okay. We will sign off. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Amari Cooper to the Bills. That's that.